All right, take three. Hey guys, I'm Alex. I'm the Black Alpine Shop box all the way to the left, possibly. I'm your race director. Thanks for joining us today. A bunch of people asked for this class on a Saturday just because sometimes weeknights didn't work for them. So we're giving it a shot. If you have any questions during the clinic, feel free to just drop it in the chat. And Emily and Earl, who are going to host this today, they'll answer it. If not, I'll make sure that it gets answered. If you are on Monday, if you are looking to camp, there are special instructions for how to get your reservation. They apparently have changed a few things. So there will be a section on the dispatch that will appear. And there will also be a little bit more information sent by the city of Hermann for some of the other places that have lowered rates right now. Really great housing. I know Emily and Earl found a really awesome place to stay at again this year. But yeah, have any questions, let us know. We're going to start.
Great. Okay, welcome everybody. I am Emily with my coordinating teal can, koozie, and sweatshirt.
And my name is Scott Erlingson, but everybody calls me Earl. So good morning and happy Saturday morning.
Yeah. So just like Alex said, we have done one previous class on a weeknight, and then by popular demand, we're doing a Saturday class for our weekend warriors. So welcome. This class will be the same as our previous class, so you don't need to go back and watch that one. We're just doing the same agenda both times. So this is not a part one, part two. This is the same thing. So on the agenda for today is we kind of have five main sections. So first, we're going to just talk about the mechanics of a gravel bike, what makes a bike good for riding gravel. Hint, almost any bike can be used on gravel. Then we're going to talk about the human. What types of things do you as a bike rider need to prepare for to do a gravel ride? Then we're going to talk a little bit about the actual gravel event itself, and we'll be specifically talking about the Tour of Hermann May 1st and 2nd, but a lot of these things are kind of general across all gravel events in case you want to do more. That was the two agendas. First, the gravel event, and then second, Tour of Hermann specific information. And then we'll have a time at the end for question and answers. But just like Alex said, if you have a question while we're talking, just put it in the chat section of Zoom. It's a little button down at the bottom of the Zoom screen. We've got the chat window up here, so we'll answer those questions in real time. Or if you have any comments, like Alex was just mentioning, there's a variety of housing options in the city of Hermann. If you're planning to stay over, you can camp. There's some RV hookups. There are a bunch of really nice B&Bs. If you have any, hey, everybody, I'm staying at this such and such inn. If you want to share that information, it's not necessarily a question, put that in the chat also. And then you can keep your video screen on or off. That's, again, totally up to you. Yeah, welcome. And then just one more note, if you didn't catch it in the beginning, we will be recording this and posting it later. So keep all of your comments just recordable, and we'll put it out on YouTube for the wide world to see and hear. So that's our little intro. What makes us good teachers for gravel riders? Why are we the experts?
I have no idea. I guess because we've maybe done a couple events, and no matter how many gravel events you do, you're always learning, and I guess we've learned the hard way. And basically we both did a lot of adventure racing, and we learned that the hard way. And then we started gravel racing, and unfortunately a lot of the adventure racing stuff kind of passes up to that. But all you got to do is start, and then you learn from there. And once you get involved, you start talking with people at the events. And the nice thing about the gravel group is it's very friendly, very approachable. just a fun group of people. So everybody is very approachable and everybody wants to grow the sport. So they're more than willing to help answer questions and assist with new people that are coming in. So don't be afraid to ask questions today. And then at the event, it's, it's for your first event, it's going to be a lot of fun, but don't be afraid to just start chatting with people.
Yeah, great intro. Just to kind of give you a little bit of some specific events that we have done. I feel like we've been riding gravel kind of since it started to become popular. Like maybe we jumped on the bandwagon like right as the gravel scene was kind of taking off. I think that was around like 2013, 2014 for each of us. And we've done races kind of all over the Midwest. And we're just so lucky here in the Midwest, in Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, Arkansas, like all of these great states have so many of these gravel roads. And so we're really lucky here to have a wide variety of wide access to terrain for gravel rides. We've kind of raced all over the Midwest, some short ones in the gravel world. Maybe a short race would be like a 50 miler. The Tour of Hermann even has shorter options. But we've kind of even done like the longer stuff, like upward 200 miles and plus. So kind of everything in between, we've had to go at that. So we're happy to share our experiences on how to prepare. Okay, so let's get into the first kind of section, is talking about what is a gravel bike, what kind of bike would be best for the gravel. And the good news is gravel is kind of a great meeting point between the world of mountain biking and the world of road cycling. So it takes kind of aspects of both of those kinds of bikes and blends them together into a nice hybrid style bike. So in general, gravel bikes they look a little bit more like road bikes because it's more traditional to have the drop bars. As you can see the yellow tape here on my drop bars. This is a bike I ride like all the time on gravel. I don't even ride my road bike anymore. So traditionally you see the drop bars. Traditionally you see this road style frame with a rigid fork. But just there's a couple tweaks to the geometry over a road or even a cyclocross frame. Just stretches things out a little bit longer, makes the ride a little bit more stable for the bumpier gravel roads. That's kind of, we're not gonna like go into ratios and lengths and everything, but just in general, that's kind of what a gravel specific bike means. But the great news, like I said, because gravel roads are a great meeting point between a lot of different cycling disciplines, you can use a wide variety of bikes too. You can use a mountain bike. It's going to be a little heavier than maybe a gravel specific bike, but it's absolutely a great option to get started in the gravel world. You can use a cyclocross bike if you've raced that or participated in those kinds of events. You can get away with a road bike. At the Tour of Hermann, you're going to have maybe the chunkier gravel might be a little bit more difficult, but if you're an excellent bike handler and confident in your skills, you can pretty much get away with a road bike. Just make sure to bring a couple extra flat repair kits.
Right, that's gonna be the downside for a road bike at Hermann. It's just, and at pretty much any gravel event is the tires aren't going to be able to really manage that. But if you went with a narrow cyclocross tire, it'd be okay. But
yep,
yeah.
You can bring a hybrid bike. Those will be a little bit more, again, a little heavier. Your position is a little bit more upright, so you might not be like the most aerodynamic rider out there. But if you're out there for your first experience, and that's the bike you have, great, bring it. We want you on the start line. So that's kind of fat bikes. People ride fat bikes at gravel events.
There's a lot of fat bikes. I mean, there's actually fat bike divisions at gravel events. So,
yeah.
If that's what you want to ride, go for it.
Tandems, if you got a tandem, if you got a recumbent, all of these things, they just meet in the world of gravel biking. And it's a really run what you brung kind of atmosphere. No bike is the wrong bike. You just need to be prepared if you're with repair items specific for your machine. Okay, so just going to kind of point out a couple key features that you'll want to make sure are in good working condition before any gravel event. I'm going to take we're going to do some camera work here. Earl, do you want to just point out, let's like just do a little tour of the cockpit up here, because that's kind of important.
Okay, so up, you got that up there?
Yep.
Okay, so this is how Emily likes to run the tri-bar configuration, but with that, has a Garmin mounted here. And then this is just a little clip that she set up for races with cue cards. You just put those in there. And then as you are done with one, you can just slide it out, put it in your jersey pocket, and you have the next one ready to go. I would not put the whole race out there, but if you want to do like, you know, depending on how many there are, but you could put about 5 out there, because sometimes when it's windy, they're going to flop and they get really annoying. So you just want to build whatever you build, practice with it to make sure you like it. But most people anymore are just using GPSs, and races offer cue cards, but not always mandatory. But it's nice to have them as a backup in case your GPS should happen to fail. And then I don't see, Emily doesn't have her odometer on here, but normally we like to run just a standard odometer as well, so that you have that as a backup in case you do lose your GPS, so that you can actually manage your cue cards again with your mileage and turns. Then this is what we call a Bento Box. So it's a nice place to store food and snacks. If you want
What
to
kind of
put
snacks I got in there?
a couple paydays are left there and some bliss sticks.
Nice.
So yeah, just a nice place to store stuff there. And then we've got the water bottle here, and we set up so where we can have 2 bottle cages, one there and one there, and then seat bag with your repair supplies. Now I can go through the seat bag when you get your computer back down. Anything else on the bike?
That's pretty much it. This frame itself is it's actually kind of an older frame, and it's aluminum with a carbon fork. So there's just a wide variety of materials out there. You can have aluminum frame bikes, carbon, titanium, steel, all kinds of fun stuff. So we've also like kind of heavily modified this bike over the years, since it is an older frame. So that's another thing, like as you get into the world of gravel, you might find like certain components wear out, or they get caked with Oklahoma red clay and they're not usable anymore. So it's just important to be able to switch components out. So, you know, we've upgraded this to a 1x drivetrain. So that's just a single ring in the front that helps with mud clearance. Oh, we didn't point out, well, we'll talk about tires in a second. And then we got the brakes up here. We added those hydraulic drop bars when those came out a few years ago. So yeah, just be ready to upgrade. And if you're riding in an especially muddy event, you're gonna bring your bike into the shop afterwards, and the mechanics are gonna look at you like, what did you just do? You're like, hey, I had a great day on the gravel. That's what happens.
Yeah, so the key thing is that, so we're pretty much a month out from the
Little less.
little less than a month. So one thing to start thinking about now is start riding your bike, just to start getting your butt broken in and your legs working and all those kind of good things if you haven't. The other thing is to make sure that your bike is mechanically sound and that the brakes are working and everything's shifting. And if it's not doing those things, you better get an appointment scheduled and get it into a shop as soon as possible, because the shops right now are really backed up. Because it'd be nice to get your bike serviced so that you can ride a few more times before the actual event to make sure everything's working correctly. So that's a key thing. And then
on Monday, there is a coupon going out for a special price tune-up at $49 if you bring your bike to the Alpine shop.
Yes, thank you for that, Alex and Joe and Mike and the bike shop crew. That's super nice. So if you need your bike service, take advantage of it, because that's a really good deal. So
Alpine Shop Kirkwood.
Right.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you for that information, Alex. So yeah, so
Want to talk about tires?
we can talk about tires.
The choice of tires is I just remember when I was starting out gravel riding, it seemed like I spent way too much time scouring internet message boards about what kind of tires to use. For some reason in my brain, I just thought like this was the key to gravel is tires, and it's important, but it's obviously you need to have like be well physically trained and all those other factors. But anyway, tires are super important. And the variety out there is huge. Some people like a very smooth tire. Some people like the knobbiest one they can find that fits their bike. So, wide variety. What I would recommend for key factors in choosing a tire, I think the biggest factor for gravel riding, and maybe, I don't know if you agree with this or not, we'll see. I think the biggest factor for choosing a gravel tire is the clearance it provides you on your bike. And what I mean by clearance is when you mount the tire onto your wheel and inflate the tire, what kind of space is between the edge of the tire and the edge of your frame that mud can either pass through it and fly off the tire, or it can get clogged up in that space and cause your wheel to seize and you have to stop and clean it out.
Yeah, well, let's just flip it around.
Okay.
We can cover both these.
Going to tire cam.
So first of all, if you notice this tire, it's kind of a mess. So is what happened is we haven't cleaned it up from last weekend, but this tire was set up as tubeless. And I'm talking about the rim and everything, but this tire was set up as tubeless, and we had a puncture. There we go. We had a puncture here, and we tried to use a bacon strip and fix it, but we were unable to do it. So we had to take it off and we had stands all over, and so that's why everything sticks to it. But we ended up just putting a tube back in it. So that's one thing you're going to need to figure out how to do is change tubes. But when everyone's talking about clearance between a tire and a frame, since these are older gravel frames, this distance here and this distance here is fairly narrow. Back in the day, it was pretty wide, but now they're a lot wider. So this is, I think, like a 35 or 38. But anyway, we have a little bit of clearance here. We have run 40s in these frames, but it gets 700 by 40s, but it gets pretty tight. So this just gives a little bit more mud clearance on the sidewalls here.
We're going to zoom into this. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Right, this distance right in here.
Perfect.
And this distance right up there.
Yep.
So, and then, okay, when you're looking at the tire itself, as you can see this one here in the middle, you have this smooth, well, this one's pretty wore out, but anyway, you have this smooth ridge here. And in most casings, it's got a harder compound in the middle. So it's going to roll a little bit better, especially on harder surfaces. Then you have your knobs out on the outside to give you a little bit better traction on the more rocky or gooey surfaces.
And while cornering.
As well. And then, tire pressures, everybody kind of like messes a little bit around with those. We normally run in that 40-ish range. And then, for the most part, we have ours set up tubeless, so we don't have to deal with tubes until we have issues.
Yeah, so this is I think it's the Specialized Trigger tire. We're actually like going to the shop later today to get a new one since, like Earl mentioned, I slashed the tire on the Katy Trail last weekend.
Specialized Trigger Pros 700 by 38s.
Yeah, so just in general, what you're looking for when you're picking out tires is something that's a pretty durable material, something that provides good clearance when it's inflated and mounted on your particular bike. And there's manufacturers put numbers on tires like 30C wide or 30 millimeters wide or 42 millimeters wide. And like, they're never accurate because it really depends on the rim and your tire pressure and all that stuff. So you just need to mount them on your bike and make sure that you can get like at least a finger between the inflated tire and your frame, so that mud or rocks or whatever can kind of blow through that whole cycle.
You might not get a full finger, but you
A
don't
pinky,
get that.
get a pinky.
You just want to make sure that the tire is rubbing on the
Yeah.
edges of the frame.
Okay, what else about the bike? There's just your contact points too, your pedals, shoes, your saddle, your handlebars. Make sure those are comfortable for you. Those are all kind of, again, choices that will vary from person to person, but just make sure you have kind of the right setup. I know if you bring your bike into the Alpine Shop Kirkwood, we'll just have you sit on it real quick and just give you a quick eyeball and make sure that all your body angles are looking, tolerable. And if you need some extra hints and tips and tricks, the mechanics at the bike shop are really great. They're wonderful resources to help you out. Okay, I think that's kind of it about like bikes and bike parts.
Well, we need to move on. It's 25 minutes.
Okay. So let's talk next about, and again, as we're going along, if you have questions, just throw them in the chat box and we'll address them as we go. So let's talk more about the human. What do you as a person need to do to prepare for a gravel race or gravel event or gravel bike ride? The first thing is training. It's going to be really hard if you come out to Tour of Hermann and you haven't been on your bike all year. I mean, number one, kudos for getting out at Tour of Hermann. Like, we want you there no matter what, if you're trained or not, but you'll just have a way better day and a way better experience if you've gotten some biking miles in before May 1st or 2nd. So take your bike out on the weekend or weeknights if you can, week mornings, weekends. The Katy Trail is a great spot to ride. There's, not a lot of elevation there, but it's just, really safe and consistent place to practice riding on gravel. At the Tour of Hermann, we do have a couple of sections that are on the Katy Trail, but you'll also see other types of surfaces. You'll see a pavement, you'll see just like real deal farm roads, some that have fresh gravel on them, some that are really packed in. You'll have water crossings, couple little dirt roads. So there's like a wide variety of surfaces, but if you need just like a go-to place to train, Katy Trail is a great option. And it's available all throughout Missouri. So yeah, good training. I would recommend, if you kind of want to be on the more serious side, try to get in a training ride that's 60 to 75% of your goal distance. A couple weeks like this weekend would be a great time, this weekend or next weekend. So if you're shooting for 100 miles on one of the days, shoot for 60 to 75 miles either this weekend or next weekend as kind of a training effort. So you can practice, the physical preparation, eating, navigating on your bike, the mental toughness required for things like headwinds or cold weather. That's just a great opportunity to get a nice long ride in and practice some of the things that you'll see at Tour of Hermann. There's also quite a bit of hills, despite using the Katy for part of the loops. The rest of it is really hilly. They're typically pretty short, but that also means they're very steep hills. So get some practice on there. Riding your bike on gravel that's going uphill is a little bit more challenging than pavement, because you can't always rely on extra power gained by standing up in the pedals and really working to get power turned over to get yourself up the hill. Because sometimes if you stand up like that, that unweights your rear tire, and then that causes you to spin out because the gravel is loose beneath you. So you really need to work on staying seated in your saddle and just powering up the hills so that you can have even weight on both of your wheels and continue to make good contact with the gravel. What other training tips do you think?
I just make sure you have your food kind of figured out. For if it's kind of your first longer event, You know, just kind of have some basic sugars, some salts, and then, you know, we can talk more about food during the event too, as far as the TAs and stuff. So we'll just table that one, but just kind of try some food and some drinks that are new to you, or make sure the ones that you used before still work for you, and just kind of check those things out. And then, you know, yeah.
Okay, so some things that you'll want to make sure that you have figured out with regards to clothing and other things that you're going to be wearing on your body. Number one, first, of course, is a helmet. Helmet is required at the Tour of Hermann at all times when you're on your bike. And also you should be wearing one at all times when you're training. So make sure you have a comfortable helmet that you can wear for as many hours in a row as you need to complete your goal number of loops at Tour of Hermann. Make sure you're also just wearing comfortable clothing. For me, that means a cycling specific short with a chamois in it. So that means a little bit of padding on your bottom to kind of cushion and make sure that the area where you're sitting on your saddle, on your bike saddle, that there's no chafing there. So that means just picking a nice chamois that works for you. It's obviously a very personal choice. And you might have to go through a couple to figure out what you like the best. But then couple your bike shorts with a chamois cream. So there are also a lot of different options. Some of them, like the chamois butter that comes in the purple tube. Those are like a little bit more thinner formula. Some people like that. I personally like, it's actually at room temperature. It's a solid. It's called Booty Balm. It's like coconut oil based. So there's like a whole spectrum of those chamois creams. But anyway, that's something that you just apply to your chamois. So that's the padded portion of your bike cycling short. You apply that first, and then you put the shorts on, and no underwear. That's like a common mistake that I made for about a year when I started riding bikes. But yeah, so have something to wear on your bottom that's comfortable and that won't cause any skin chafing or irritation. Have comfortable socks, choose the pair of shoes that you want to use. Most people at the event, you'll see in the bike specific shoes. So the bikes that have a little metal cleat on the bottom of them, and then that clip in to the pedal. But you will also see people with just like tennis shoes, tennis runners, running shoes, and flat pedals there. Because we really try to have people who are newer to cycling come out and participate. So either choice is great. Again, run what you brung. If you're used to cycling in a cycling specific shoe that clips into your pedal, do that. If you're used to riding with a flat shoe and a flat pedal, do that. On your top, make sure you have a comfortable top. High visibility is good. The roads are not closed for this event, so you'll need to be visible when you're riding on the public roads. Of course, the gravel roads are typically less trafficked, but you will be on some paved roads that have regular traffic on them. So you need to have something that's nice and visible. And the weather could be anything. Like it could be.
Yeah, I mean, there's some years that you start out the first loop on Saturday morning in knee warmers, arm warmers, and a rain jacket and stocking cap. And then you got on the second loop and you're in just shorts and a t-shirt. So it can really vary. So just when you leave for the event, maybe study the weather a little bit, but also just be prepared to bring a couple extra items to change into if the weather changes, or if the first loop you get rained on and you want to switch out to at least a dry shirt and maybe a second pair of shorts, have that option, or dry pair of socks, because you'll be coming back to your car after every loop. So why not spoil yourself and have some options? Because a lot of times you don't have that luxury. So that's one of the benefits of this event that makes it so, available to all levels of cycling. Is just that being able to come back, because normally if you're doing a 100-mile or a 200-mile event, what you leave with is what you got. So this is a really nice way to have a fun event.
So we had a question in the chat. Is the course the same as previous years? Alex, chime in if this is different, but I'm pretty confident we're using the same 5 loops in the same order as previous years. So
correct. This is the last year that we are doing it. The course is changing. We're going to make some modifications, and hopefully we can do it with the city's approval. But we'll have a couple new loops and some changes on loop number 3. I think is going to stay the same, but there's some changes coming.
but not for this year, right?
Not for this year.
Okay, yep.
And
So
you can
20,
find all of the courses on Off-Road Racing League under Tour of Hermann, and there's a courses option, and there are downloadable files that we are currently updating and will be available on Monday that you can download to pretty much, at this point, pretty much any basically mobile GPS unit.
perfect. Yeah, so that's great. So if you're kind of a Tour of Hermann veteran, or if you've had friends that have done the course, you can always get some good intel about what the different loops are. But just the general format is Saturday, there's 3 loops of about 30 miles each. So if you do all 3, you get right, I think just over 100 miles. And then Sunday is 2 loops of about 50 miles each. And they're all unique and fun loops. Okay, that's kind of, I think, yeah, just have a variety of clothing, make sure you wear your helmet, make sure everything's tested out before the Tour of Hermann weekend. Bring some sunscreen, you might need that out there. Anything else for human, make sure you're trained up. It's if you're a veteran cyclist, you might kind of, I'm guilty of this every year. Like I kind of look at the event like, oh, 100 miles each day. Like, okay, yeah, like I mean, it's early in the season, but I totally got this. And then I finished the first day and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my butt just got kicked so hard. And it's just, they're 2 really tough days. If you do the full 100 miles each day, they're very challenging. And it's just, wow, it's hard, but it's a really great event to train up for earlier in the year. And then it'll just set you up with a lot of nice fitness for the rest of the year. So really kind of sneaky challenging, I guess, is how I would describe the physical component of Tour of Hermann. Okay, so let's talk about this generic gravel events in general, kind of what you should expect on, gravel day, race day. Some people get stressed out with calling it a race, so we could call it an event. Whatever your goals are for that day. Obviously you want to kind of make sure you show up a little bit earlier, get a good parking spot. Tour of Hermann has a really nice kind of lots of parking options close to the start finish line. And make sure you give yourself kind of plenty of time to get situated and checked in and get your number on and all that stuff. There's a variety, I mentioned before, there's a variety of different types of gravel that you will encounter on any gravel ride. Kind of on one end of the easiest spectrum is paved roads. And then all the way to the other end of the spectrum, like the most challenging is I would say waterlogged, muddy roads that are actually unrideable and you have to carry or push your bike through them to make progress because the mud is so soupy. So you'll just see everything. Some, not Tour of Hermann, but some gravel courses even incorporate single track, which is a little fun and spicy. So again, it's just kind of everything goes as far as gravel. The easier types are kind of gravel that you'll see on the Katy Trail. So that crushed limestone, flat surface, wide path. That's a pretty tame portion of gravel to be riding. It's very predictable. You'll see gravel roads that have been packed in already by spring farm traffic. And those are usually pretty smooth and fast and fun to ride. You'll see roads that have just the county maintenance group found out that there is a cycling event and they want to go quick dump a bunch of rock on the road. It always seems to happen at some points in the
they don't
course.
intentionally do that, but it just it does seem to happen that if you go you're a race director and you go see it on Saturday of the week before, and then you go mark your course on Friday, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of fresh gravel there. You're like, yeah, but it's part of the deal, you know. And we rode out at Hermann, well, it's been over a month ago now, and there were, surprisingly, a month ago, there was quite a bit of sections that had fresh gravel already put on it. And by the time we get there in May, most of those will all be crushed in. So those will be good, but those, you know, there'll still be some, there's always going to be some fresh out there. So just, you know, ride within your limits on the fresh. And if you're not comfortable, just don't be afraid to walk.
And then I mentioned those kind of muddier farm roads. If you are, you know, riding along, you
won't have these in Hermann.
Yeah, this is not for Hermann. This is for general. This is a really challenging ego check that you need to be aware of for other gravel events. And you'll see like a kind of a dirt farm road or a B road or a low maintenance road. They're kind of got different names all over the country. And maybe it rained the night before and you see like some tire tracks going through and you're like, oh, it's just, I can totally ride this. Someone else rode through, no problem, let me go. And you start riding on these soft dirt roads and the mud it's like a magnet. It just gets attracted to your bike. It clogs up that space that we were talking about earlier between the tire and the frame. And it seizes up your wheel and you just can't pedal. And then what happens is you can't pedal, but now there's all this mud on your bike. And when you go to pick it up, it's like 80 pounds or it's really, really heavy. So it takes a good deal of recognition and discipline to notice those conditions and have the humility to just say, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to pick up my bike right now while it weighs its normal amount and carry it through this muddy section. And then I can get back on and start riding much more quickly than if I had ridden through.
To do that is it's so much faster to pick up and carry, because once you get that mud on there, you have to get it all cleaned off. And it's just frustrating. And the other thing is like when you get into those muddy situations, that's when you start seeing people snapping derailleurs or bending derailleur hangers too, because they're just trying to power through it. And the bike is not designed. It's just not a good idea. So then all of a sudden, it's kind of a race ending situation for a lot of people. So you'll see like a DK land run, those kind of events where you first
Unbound gravel or mid-south gravel.
Yeah, I get them all wrong. But anyway, you just see people getting knocked out of the race so fast just because they try to do those maneuvers. And, you know, it's like, and a lot of times it's in the first 20, 30 miles, sometimes you see half the field knocked out because they tried to run the mud. But yeah, just pick it up and carry.
Other things that I kind of mentioned before, but I'll mention again, is the courses are typically not closed to traffic. So there will be regular, you know, car and truck traffic on these roads. In the farming areas, there will be farm equipment. So that's like big, wide. What kind of tractors do you most commonly see out there?
I see all kinds of big green and yellow ones.
So they'll have, you know, farm equipment, and it's just important to keep your heads up when you see any sort of tractor, planter, sprayer, anything out there that's real wide. Just give the drivers some courtesy and some space. They're trying to do their job. And, you know, for them, Saturday morning is a work day. And for us, it's like a fun day. So just give all that farm equipment a good distance so that they can maneuver how they need to, and then they'll be out of their way and back in the field where they can kind of continue on their chore list for the day.
One of the cool things about this year is that we're at the start. If you have done Tour of Hermann before, it takes you basically right onto Main Street and then onto 19. And it's always kind of been a little hairy with the traffic on Main Street. This year, we're going to have a complete police escort all the way through Main Street. So we'll kind of all pedal together until it's about 4-ish miles. And it'll take us over the bridge, still being escorted. And the state troopers are going to allow us to make a left turn off of 19 onto Katy Trail. So this is just going to make the whole process easier. And the city of Hermann has had signs up the last week, say with our events, so people are more aware this year than ever that we are going to be there.
That's super nice. Good job, Alex.
And it's just, I mean, Hermann is such a great town, and they've always been like a great supporter of the event with headquarters space, and of course they love the visitors that the Tour of Hermann brings in to the B&B and restaurants in the area. But they've just, over the years, they've been great partners, and they're like continuing to kind of figure out how to be even better hosts. So thank you, City of Hermann, Missouri, for being wonderful partners. Also on the course, you may see animals. My personal favorite are baby cows. I always try to point those out and say how cute they are. But you also may see dogs. And sometimes those dogs are really upset that you are pedaling on their personal private road. By private road, I mean, that's in the dog's perspective, they're public roads. So anyway, you just need to keep your head up for any sort of dogs that are out. They may bark, they may chase, and it's something that can be a scary encounter if you are, taken by surprise or not prepared to have a dog out there. It's like kind of a rare thing, but just something to be aware of. What we've kind of found between the two of us, if we do encounter some sort of territorial dogs, is obviously telling them no, go home in a very, commanding, firm voice. If they continue to chase and kind of nip at your shoes, which is scary, the best kind of defense that I would recommend is taking your water bottle and squirting some water out of your water bottle into the dog's face. It doesn't hurt them, but it takes them by surprise, and kind of helps you get some extra time to kind of continue moving out of their
potentially. Otherwise, it just really pisses them off, and then they run faster. But it's just
yeah. But just be aware, and if you see if you are, if there's people kind of needing help, kind of all move forward through that area, just to keep everybody safe and the dog safe too.
So hopefully, most people have their dogs in on Saturday and Sunday, but and most of them just walk to the end of the driveway and lay down and just want you to pet them, but there normally seems to be one or two out.
Yeah. Okay, great. Good question in the chat. How many riders are you expecting for the race? Ooh, Alex, can you give us a registration update?
So right now we are at 240 riders that are registered. We're expecting somewhere around 275 by the time the event happens. Normally, the past couple of years, we've been somewhere around 250 to like 300 registered. So it's about on par for what we have.
Nice. Just curious, are you accepting race day registration, or do people need to sign up in advance?
So this year we cannot accept race day registration. We are required by the state, since our event is so big, to do contact tracing, and I have to submit all of the racers by 12 a.m. or basically by the end of the day on the 31st or on the 30th of April, sorry. And I have to have all your information there. So we are not doing same day this year.
Great. Okay. Great information.
Good to know.
Okay. What else about the actual day of event? Anything tips or tricks?
So day of event, like we mentioned, get there early so that you have your time to get everything organized and get stuff set up. And then, nobody's going to be parked terribly far from where we have you check in and out after each loop. But is what I would recommend doing is you can, finish your loop, check in, and then, if you're going to go out on another loop, you can go back to your car, grab a snack, refill your bottles. We normally have a couple sets of bottles in the car so that we don't have to like refill them. We just switch out bottles, just grab and go, get some food, and then get ready. I mean, you're on the clock for the whole day. So, you know, depending on how fast or slow you want to go is up to you, but just kind of have a sandwich, have a piece of pizza, a couple pickles, you know, whatever, or, you know, some Coca-Cola or a Busch Light, whatever, you know, makes you happy. And then refill fuel, and then check back in and let them know you're going out on your next loop. You know, maybe pack a little cooler and just have good food and some extra clothes available for each loop. And then, you know, if you had a flat tire, maybe grab another tube, get some backup supplies. If you need to reapply with any of your chamois creams or sunscreens, you can do that. And then just make sure that you have the next route loaded up on your GPS or your cue cards to go out on the next loop, and just
Get gone.
Be smart, but be efficient. There's no reason to go super fast in and out, and then all of a sudden you're like bonking on the next loop because you didn't eat enough food and refill your bottles or something like that. So, yeah.
Okay, so we've kind of talked a little bit about the specific format of Tour of Hermann. We mentioned that there was 3 loops on Saturday of approximately a little bit over 30 miles each. So you end up with about 100 miles for Saturday. Then on Sunday, there's approximately 2 loops. There's exactly 2 loops of approximately 50 miles each. Again, some people come to the weekend with the intent to ride all 5 loops so they'll total up 200 miles for the weekend. Some people come and they just want to ride loop number 1, 30 miles on Saturday, and that's the goal and that's their schedule. And that's why I feel like the Tour of Hermann is such a great kind of intro event to the world of gravel, because you can really pick your poison and set your own personal goals and not be stuck out on a 100-mile loop if maybe you were really ambitious when you were signing up for the event and life happened and you didn't get training in, and maybe 60 miles is a better goal. So then you can tailor that to yourself on the day. So it's really flexible. So you have those 5 different loop options, 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Like Earl mentioned, keeping your TA time or your transition time to a minimum when you're coming back to HQ and refueling and getting ready to go out on the next one. I think that's
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a great event. And I guess gravel cycling in general, I mentioned earlier that like I have a road bike, but I hardly ever ride it because I'm just always on my gravel bike. Even on 100% pavement rides, I like just enjoy that bike more. It's more comfortable and more enjoyable to ride. So hope you enjoy the world of gravel and specifically enjoy the Tour of Hermann on May 1st and 2nd. If anybody has any lingering questions now, we'll throw them in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask, we're happy to do that too. But that is our
I have one quick add is
okay.
we haven't gone through this, but in Emily's saddlebag, if you were to open it up, there might be something in there, I don't know, but in my saddlebag, we have a multi-tool that has a chain brake and some Allen wrenches in it, hand pump, a tube, CO2 cartridge, and an inflator, and a tire iron to fix flat tires. So if you don't know how to use all these tools, at least carry a tube, and then people will help you put a tube in. But if you have nothing, they're probably not going to give you the tube of their own unless they're super nice. But have some tools with you to at least be prepared to fix a flat tire when you're out on the course.
Yes. Question in the chat: how many people are brand? Oh, that was you. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure who is brand new to the race or who is race that is here today. But like Emily said, one of the coolest things is that it's at your own pace, and we want you to know that all the loops are completely up to you which ones you are doing. The only thing that we do ask is if you are going to do, let's say, loop 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do them out of order, please let us know what loop, if you are doing them out of order, which we do not encourage, but you can. Please let us know at the starting line so we can mark it in our system, just because we want to make sure that we know where you are. That is incredibly important. You guys are going out on these trails, and if you get hurt, you will have a phone number to give us a call, and we've got vehicles to come get you. But we don't want to think you're on loop number 2 and you're actually doing loop number 3. That's a super important thing. The other thing I just wanted to add as well is this year is a little different. In Gasconade County, there is not a mask mandate or mask requirement. Since our event is so big, it qualifies under a different section under Missouri, and we are required to have masks while you are at the starting line and in big groups of people. So we're not requiring you to wear them while you're riding, but while you're at headquarters, as you're coming in, you know, have it somewhere handy. So as soon as you hop off your bike, you can pop it on. We do have to have them. If you are not abiding by that, we are going to ask you to leave the race, and we will DQ you off the board. You know, we're all in it together. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yep.
The third thing that I'm going to add, which is super important, with your any type of repairs or any type of special parts for your bike that need to be ordered in the industry right now, their inventory is incredibly slim, or it's impossible to get certain parts. It is important that if you have not had your bike looked at in the last 6 months, you come and do it anywhere. It normally takes a bike shop about 3 days to get parts in. On a good year, this year it can take up to a week and a half. So we're kind of at that 20-day mark, and we just want to make sure that we can get you basically set up, ready to ride and good to go, and you're not waiting for one part and having to borrow a bike.
Totally. Great insight, Alex. And you know, that's something that races all over, you know, in normal times. That's their bike mechanics' worst fear, is to have a racer come in Thursday night or Friday night before a race, and it causes a lot of unnecessary stress on the racer. It causes stress for the bike shop and the bike mechanics themselves. So just take all that out. You have the opportunity to bring your bike in. Like Alex said, there'll be a coupon on Monday for the Alpine shop in Kirkwood, and just give yourself a little breather to get your bike looked at and replaced if needed.
Yeah,
It's actually going to be a little, so I just thought about this. With your tune-up coupon for the $49 tune-up, you're actually going to get basically a $10, same as cash, coupon as well. So you can use that $10 on services, so you can get a $39 tune-up. But I just wanted you guys to be aware that if you're thinking about what you might need, she's mentioned a whole bunch of different, like, bring snacks, bring energy, goo. That was what I was thinking. Bring like goo and like supplements for yourself. That's incredibly important this year. If you've raced before, you know that we normally bring a giant spread of food that pretty much anyone can grab anything. This year, we're only offering some rolls and bananas. It's very slimmed down. It's not what we'd normally do. So make sure that you have enough calories and energy for yourself.
right. And that's due to COVID. That's not due to us change.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry.
Alpine Shop is always about providing good food and beverages. So,
Yes.
you know, we would be all over that. So let's not shame the Alpine Shop for that. That's next year we can have a big party.
Yeah. Here's our favorite kind of strategy for Tour of Hermann weekend is to go to Hermann on Friday night. There's a really nice pizza place, So we order like the biggest size pizza that they offer, and we eat some of it for dinner, and then we have the cold pizza the next day for to eat between loops. So there's your pro cycling tip from non-pros. We're just amateurs.
Right. So one thing before we get too far off the subject and I forget is, so Alex mentioned, letting them know if you're going out of sequence, to let the race HQ know what you're doing. And that's very important. The other thing is Alex, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we will have a cutoff Saturday mid-afternoon that nobody is to leave out after, let's say, 3 o'clock or whatever that time is.
Correct. Yeah, we're adjusting it from what we've set from 2018 and 2019. It's just going to be on Saturday. It's going to have a little bit more leeway. And Sunday, the times are pretty much the same. The cutoff is right at 5 p.m. And that can change if it does flood. Just a heads up. Flooding does happen in the areas, and we do have to adjust some things sometimes. But 5 p.m. will be the cutoff as of right now on Sunday. It's pretty much.
We want everybody back.
Correct.
Yeah. So the reason, and I guess where I'm going with this, the reason that we need these cutoffs is we want everybody back and checked in before it gets dark. And it is Hermann, and there's people that like to frequent some establishments out there. And the later you're out on the road, it just opens up potential other exposure and that kind of stuff. But it's basically for safety. That's the reason that we have these set in place. So we just want to not people leaving and then not having a chance to get back in a reasonable amount of time.
Yep. All right, last call for questions. Anyone else out there with questions?
Earl, I have a question, or Emily, whoever carries the first aid kit, what is in your first aid kit when you guys are cycling?
Sure. Okay. I have a direct question too, which I will answer after the first aid question. So I would say with an event like Tour of Hermann, we don't typically carry really any, I'm just being honest, like really any first aid.
So I mean, I carry like I don't really consider it first aid, but I always carry Motrin, some ECAPs, some electrolyte refills that way.
A little extra chamois cream.
Normally I always have some duct tape in my saddlebag. So, I guess if you get cut up or something, you can use duct tape and part of a sock or something to cover a wound. So I guess, really, unfortunately, we don't, adventure racing, we're always carrying a medical kit, but for gravel riding, we're really not carrying much of anything other than just kind of some stuff to deal with some body niggles.
Yep. But it's always nice to have those supplies in your car, just or in your vehicle as a kind of general life safety type item. So yeah, just be prepared. And if you have something specific, like if you have a recent wound that'll need a new Band-Aid or anything like that, like obviously be prepared to address that throughout the day through any sort of movement that any injury would experience during a cycling event. I have a question about, will there be a SAG vehicle to bring you back to the start if you have a mechanical issue that can't be fixed on course? Great question. The answer is, do you mind if I just plow through this one, Alex? There is a SAG service. I will say it's not like Uber, and even Uber, what I mean to say is it's not fast. So you could be, if you're at the farthest extents of the loop and you have a chain break and you can't fix it on your own, it may take 20, 30, 60 minutes for a SAG vehicle to reach you. So just think about that. And it's good to have the service and have that little peace of mind, but just be aware that, there's a lot of riders out there, and we just want everybody to be as self-sufficient as possible. So if you do need to pick up yes, that is available in serious circumstances, but it is most likely not going to be, snap your fingers and there's someone there to pick you up. So that's my, Alex, anything to add for SAG?
No, that's good.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? Oh, good one. Please comment on typical loop times. Whew. I would say I'm happy to comment on this. The Saturday loops, they're each about 30 miles, between 30 and 35. I would say the first loop is the easiest and it's typically the fastest. We typically, Earl and I finish that loop maybe anywhere between 2 hours and 2.5 hours, depending on the roads and training and that kind of, preemptive factors. So I would say for Saturday on the fast end, we're not fast riders, just being honest. So the speedy people will finish those 30 to 35 mile loops in under 2 hours. And then our like newer cyclists or less fit cyclists, they will finish those loops in like 3 hours, sometimes maybe in a little longer.
Basically just figure 10 miles an hour and that's basically a 3-hour loop ish. And somebody might be out there for 3.5, 4 hours. That's fine. It's whatever makes you comfortable.
You need to stop for a little bit and talk to the baby cows and get your energy back up, do it. And then the loops on Sunday, those are the 50-mile loops. Those are, they're challenging. And especially if you did several, 60 or 100 miles the day before, they can definitely 10 miles an hour is not slow on the 50-mile loops on Saturday. So be prepared for kind of all sorts of challenges. And I just think Sunday is such a tough day, even though it sounds like, oh, I just have to copy and paste from yesterday. It can be a really tough day. Any other questions? Oh, great. And Alex just mentioned all of the archived Tour of Hermann results can be found on the offroadracingleague.com webpage. It's under the Tour of Hermann event and the results section of the Tour of Hermann page. So you can go through and stock people's finishing times from other years. You can see how many people actually do all 5 loops. It's a minority of riders. And just, kind of get a taste of the event. I know when I was first doing the Tour of Hermann, I'm an engineer and I love spreadsheets. So I had a big spreadsheet of loop number 1, the exact distance, the amount of climb in each loop, a slow speed, an average speed, a fast speed, and times broken out. I had the whole deal calculated down to the second. So you can do that with historical data and kind of check out those past results. Or you can just go and ride your bike.
Just go ride your bike.
Just go ride your bike.
It's fine.
Okay, if there's no other questions, just want to thank everybody for joining us on the rainy Saturday morning. If you think of something later today or tomorrow, definitely get in touch with the Alpine Shop in Kirkwood. Alex at the shop will be happy to answer questions. And any of the folks in the bike shop, they're also really helpful. So just use those resources available to you, or maybe friends of yours who have done the event in the past. You can also find the Alpine Shop and the Tour of Hermann Gravel Challenge on Facebook. Those are great places to ask questions as well. And that's all we have. So thanks everybody for your time. We'll get the recording posted online if you want to revisit it later. And we'll see you May 1st and 2nd in Hermann.
Bye.